Live. We are live.
Yep. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our second round of our June Veterans Writing Community Workshop series on mindfulness. Last week, we kind of understood what mindfulness was. This week, we've been working on mindfulness and the body. So my name is Delynn Martineau. I am a rhetoric and writing instructor at UCCS in Colorado Springs.
My name is Andrew Labassi. I'm a recent UCCS graduate and the other co-founder of the VWC.
And my name is Marty Brady Bunch, and I am one of Dylan's colleagues at UCCS, also in the English department. And I'm the visiting guest for this series on mindfulness and mindfulness-based writing.
So to kick things off, we have some housekeeping. So running through this real quick, do make sure that you have a pen and something to write with. We are going to be doing some writing sprints during our exercises. Specifically, you're going to get at least 25 minutes of writing time during this 90-minute broadcast. Second, we got a check-in question. So what is your favorite kind of chip? I made a bad dad joke to one of my friends earlier, and my favorite kind of chip is probably a computer chip. I'm a nerd.
Har, har, har. I think my favorite kind of chip is just a plain old Lay's potato chip.
As people are typing that in, I have to think of
You cut out there for a second, Marty. You there, Marty?
Oh, I'm here. So sorry. Can you hear me and see me?
Yeah, you just cut out there for a second. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's probably just because I try to open up one tab, and then 5 minutes later, you can hear me. So anyway, did you ask me a question?
What's your favorite kind of chip?
Oh, okay. So, gosh, potato, veggie chip. I don't know. How about this? Casino chips. Those are my favorite.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay. And if you're joining us this evening, go ahead and put your favorite kind of chip into the comments. And if you're watching us, also, we want to encourage you to like and share this video and hashtag replay. So did you have some more stuff you wanted to do for housekeeping?
I think that wraps up housekeeping. So next we are going to have Marty introduce and explain mindfulness and give us a quick recap for last week.
Okay, so I'm gonna lean on Delynn at some points if I don't recall everything. But the last session we really just introduced ourselves and the audience to mindfulness, and kind of explained how to practice it. And we began last session by practicing mindfulness. And I mentioned last session about how mindfulness has been around for quite a while, but it just started becoming more mainstream just about for the past 7 years. I've seen it on magazines at the grocery store, and I've heard news segments on it, and how even elementary schools and high schools are now utilizing mindfulness and really incorporating it into education. Because as we all know, education can sometimes be, a stressful journey for some folks. And so incorporating different mindfulness skills and techniques to calm ourselves down and to find a not so stressful way through it is helpful. So I gave a disclaimer last time about my technology. So I don't know if you can even hear me or see me, or if my mouth is moving slower or faster than my speech. Is that a thumbs up that yes, it is very bad, or a thumbs up it's okay?
It's all good.
Anyway, and everybody, just stick around today, and we'll get into different types of mindfulness in just a moment.
Yeah, I like that the idea of mindfulness is we're so busy and we're so busy multitasking all the time that the idea of mindfulness just has you slow down and focus on just one thing. So it's the opposite of multitasking. And you don't focus on the past or the future, you focus on the present. And so you just focus. Tonight, we're going to work with focusing on the body with mindfulness.
I'm excited. I'm saying as if I didn't already know. I'm just excited about it. All right. So,
I think we ought to do a warm-up of writing. So like 5 minutes of writing.
all right.
So our first prompts are going to be, where in your body do you carry the most stress? Or your other prompt choice is, where do you go to put on your thinking cap? And do keep in mind, these are just writing prompts. They're just suggestions. So if you want to write about something else, you already have something that's started, feel free to work on that. These are just prompts in case you don't have anything else. So I am going to find a cell phone, which I managed to not have, and I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes. Delyn's going to...
Yeah, I got one. I got one.
Take it away, Delyn.
All right, so I'm going to set my timer for 5 minutes. Usually we put one on the screen, but we're having a few minor technical difficulties tonight. So I'll keep track and I'll give you a 1 minute warning. And let's write on these prompts for 5 minutes. Where on your body do you carry the most stress, or where do you go to put on your thinking cap? And starting now. All right, folks, you have about 1 minute left. All right, time is up. So dot those I's and cross those T's. Add some end punctuation and get ready to. You can always go back and finish that later. That was a short one. We'll have a couple more 10-minute prompts a little bit later with some different ideas to write about, but you can always go back and finish later. So okay, so one of the things that we talked about last week that I really liked was that mindfulness is something that anybody can do. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Everybody does it differently. But that the more you do it, the more you can train your brain to focus better. So focusing on the present and being mindful. Last week we tried it with 5 minutes. This week we'll try it with another 5 minutes. But if you can build up, the longer you can build up and focus just on the present, I really like the idea that it's like training a muscle because you're training your brain to do that. I've also found that I've been practicing mindfulness for a few months now, and I can already read for longer periods of time. I don't necessarily need to have, I'm able to tune out distractions better. I'm able to focus more when I'm driving. So even just a few months of practicing mindfulness has made a real improvement in my life. So what do you think, Marty?
Oh, okay. Thanks for unmuting me. For some reason, my cell phone turned on all of a sudden. So there's something called what is it called? Mercury in retrograde, I believe, is what's happening. But I really appreciate everything you were just reading back to us. And I was thinking about my own stress and where I carry it, and mostly it's in my upper body. And that's where I most feel it. And out of the two prompts, what really excited me was where do I put my thinking cap on? And for me, it is a specific hill back in my hometown that I live. My parents live near the beach in Southern California. And there's a hill that's somewhere there in town. I don't want to give it publicity because then it won't be so isolated. Anyway, it looks at least over 3 or 4 cities, and that's where many decisions have been made in my own life, and many thoughts have been had there. So I'm really excited about continuing on writing about that spot. So I'm glad that was part of the prompt today. Thank you.
So what are your thoughts as we go forward with our mindfulness in the body? What are some of the key things that you want to bring up that are really important to understand?
Key points about mindfulness and why I think it's important. Is that kind of your thought for today?
Yeah, and specifically connections to the body.
Right. So our bodies are so sensitive, whether we realize it or not. And we carry stress in different parts of our body, and whether we realize it or not, it's absolutely there. And so what mindfulness does for me, and what I think it's important to understand, is how to acknowledge that it exists in our body and where it exists. And I hate to say how to live with it, but I think something Dr. John Kabat-Zinn would say is how to live through it, or how to breathe through it. Because, you know, mindfulness is not a cure. Mindfulness is not a cure for anxiety, but it's a way of coping, and it's a way of understanding. And you understand it and acknowledge it, and you know, work through it the best you can. So what I'm excited about today is that we're going to be doing some meditations focused on breathing and on focused attention. So bringing attention where in our body we carry stress, perhaps even describing it. I think may even be one of our prompts today, or similar to the prompt we just had. And just acknowledging it, and then having a paired mindfulness meditation that helps you to focus your attention not only on acknowledging your stress, but how to bring that stress level down. And I think at one point we're going to talk about cortisol levels and what that does to your body, gray matter in your mind, and all of that stuff, right? So that's just a little tidbit.
So should we try one?
Yeah, are we ready for it? And before we do that,
you want to do a little coaching before we start?
Yeah, absolutely. And before we do that, let me just like throw my phone in the toilet real quick, because I tried to throw it in the closet because I completely turned it off and I can still hear it. I don't know if you can hear it. Can you hear it? And it's just super distracting, and I'm just gonna like throw it outside or something at this point. So just give me like 5 seconds.
That's funny. So yeah, and the trick is to not get stressed over stuff like that, right?
No,
one of my favorite things.
It.
I just started reading Full Catastrophe Living, which is Kabat-Zinn's book. And one of the things he says is like, experience it, but don't judge it as good or bad. Just let it go by. So I was thinking you could just experience the phone in the closet, but don't judge about whether it's good or bad.
I just wrapped it in a blanket right now. It's like, shut up. I feel like such an old man. I don't understand how I could turn it off and it still be speaking. Anyway,
okay.
Let's take a moment. Okay. Are we going to have a timer on the screen? No. Okay.
Because we're having problems screen sharing with our faces on the screen at the same time.
Okay.
So, but I can set a timer on my.
Fine. And you know what? I have No, it's okay. I have my clock right here.
Okay.
I'm going to look at it. And we'll right now. So my coaching for this exercise, this is called a focused, and what we're going to be doing, like I was just mentioning just a couple minutes ago, we're going to be focusing on our breath. We're going to bring attention to our breath. And you're going to notice that while you are trying to focus on something that happens so naturally on its own, you know, we don't really notice it or acknowledge it. Can you imagine if you had to constantly remember to breathe? It would be like losing your car keys. Like, oh, I forgot to breathe right now. Oh, I left my breath at home, or something like that. What we're going to do
Yeah.
is just acknowledge that it's so natural. Your body knows what to do. All we have to do is just get out of the way and let it do what it needs to do. So we're going to do a focused mindfulness meditation on breathing. And what I'd like you all to do is just first find a comfortable sitting position right in your chair where you are at. And we're going to do this for 5 minutes. And I'm going to go ahead and set the timer for 5 minutes. And we're starting right now. And what I'd like you to do is just keep your eyes open and just take a few deep breaths on your own, at your own pace. So as you're sitting down, I want you to sit attentively as best as you can, straighten your back up. We just want to make sure that we are focused on our breathing and giving our diaphragm room to breathe. So now you can go ahead and close your eyes and allow your breath to return to normal rhythm without changing anything. Just take note of your natural breath. Notice that your natural breathing rises and falls on your body. Acknowledge those sensations. When you're breathing, what does your body do as it expands and deflates? Where do you notice your breath? In your chest or in your stomach? As you're sitting there with your eyes closed, you might notice that your mind is wandering. That's natural. Acknowledge that your mind has wandered and bring your focus back to your breath. Acknowledge those sensations. As you breathe, you notice your mind getting pulled away. Acknowledge it. Don't berate yourself or belittle yourself. Acknowledge that this is a natural thing for your mind to do. And just bring yourself back to focusing on your natural breathing. Focus on the rise and fall of your stomach. Just let your body do what it knows what to do and how to do. Trust that your body will take care of you. And take the next 5 seconds to begin opening your eyes. You can take one last big deep breath with your eyes open. And let that out. And find your way out of this meditation. And that's been about 5 minutes right there. So, Dylan, first, I want to hear a little bit about how that experience was for you. Do we have time to share? Are we going to share about that?
Sure. One of the things that I really like about that is that, you know, it's always a struggle to focus on just on the breath, because all these thoughts about what you should be doing, or you know, your list of things to do, or the past that you can't change, all that stuff kind of crowds in sometimes. And so just knowing that this is 5 minutes where I'm going to really focus on just one thing, and all that stuff kind of falls away. And then when you're done with the 5 minutes, it doesn't seem like it's pressing that hard. And so you can kind of decide what power that has over you when you take it back on, you know. So it's kind of, it really does help you relax. I like to, you know, purposely, intentionally relax my forehead, my cheeks, my shoulders. I carry my tension in my shoulders. And so I really try to kind of shake it out. And I feel a lot better. So it was good.
So as I was guiding us, of course, I couldn't fully, well, I guess I could have, but, you know, I was focused on something else. And I caught myself not breathing for, you know, maybe like 2 or 3 seconds, and then I'd have to take a deep breath in. And it was my body just telling me, hey, don't breathe here. I know you're a little nervous and you're focused on something else, but don't forget to breathe. And when my very first time practicing this focused meditation, I thought I was crazy because my mind every 2 seconds was somewhere else. It was thinking about a TV show. It was thinking about, what am I doing after this? It was thinking about so many other things. And I started to realize how busy and noisy my mind was about anything and everything, about a flower that I saw on the way to class, or about a crack in the sidewalk that I had saw 3 days before. And it was just still in there, going and going and going and going. My mind never had a chance to just really relax. So acknowledging those thoughts, understanding that your mind racing is such a natural thing, but flexing that muscle to hone in on what's natural, hone in on the breathing. And you always wonder why people say, take a deep breath, or take 3 deep breaths before you come talk to me again. It really does a lot because it brings you back to your body's natural state. You don't have to think about breathing because your body does it on its own. So let that be your guide. If anything else, let your own body guide you through a guided meditation by just focusing on your breath.
So John Kabat-Zinn says if you want to pay attention to your breathing, just hold your nose and keep your mouth closed and see how long it takes you to pay attention to your breathing. and speaking of Kabat-Zinn, we have a couple of YouTube videos that I'm going to recommend that you watch if you're interested. The first one is 9 Attitudes of Mindfulness, which is he just does an overview of things like not judging yourself and keeping yourself focused and keeping an open mind, that sort of thing. And then there's another one called Mindful Living, and they're both really good videos. He actually does them, and so he kind of talks you through one of the ones. The first one is the one that kind of takes it apart by components, and then the Mindful Living talks about how you can be mindful in each day, and how that can help you over time. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I think we should write again.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So we've got 2 more prompts for you. So this time we're going to write for 10 minutes. And you can continue what you were writing before. You can write about whatever you want to, but these are prompts that are just if you need a new idea, we've got a couple more for you. So you could describe a few places or situations that cause you anxiety, or what's your favorite form of exercise? And remember just to keep your pen going for the 10 minutes. Don't stop, don't go back, don't edit, don't reread. Just keep moving until the 10 minutes is up. And I'll start my timer right now. All right, we have 1 minute left. 1 minute. All right, that's it. Time is up. So finish up your last sentence there and come on back to screen. So how'd that feel?
So can I start?
Oh, you want to share?
I found myself chuckling so many times. Yeah, in fact, I feel like I'm lagging a little bit because I'm saying something and I think you're responding like a minute later, but I'm just going to keep on talking because eventually it'll line up. So, so anyway, I found myself chuckling because, right now I'm in a very good state of mind, and I don't feel too anxious because I've got my friends here and I feel very calm. But as I'm reflecting on the moments where I do have anxiety, I can chuckle about it right now, and it's making me think about all the different, not only the different places that we can have anxiety, like, or moments like going on a date or going on an interview or taking an important phone call. These are all kind of regular, everyday type of stressors. But because of the year we just had, there's not only regular stressors, but there's also pandemic stressors. So, being in a room full of people, regular anxiety. Being in a room full of people during COVID, it's like twice the, what's happening and how can I get through this because I've got to eat and I've got to go to the store, So there's, different things that I'm thinking about here. So just personally, first of all, what was the the question, what's your favorite form of exercise? I would say walking and jump roping. I mentioned that last time. I really like those two. And the other question was describe a few places or situations that cause you anxiety. Important phone calls, like I mentioned. Dating, of course, when you go on dates, especially the first date. Yikes, and being in unfamiliar places for me. When I'm in a place that's unfamiliar, like a city or a town, or even like a building that I'm not familiar with, it gives me a little, stress. So, what about you all?
I know a really common one is large crowds of people. I think that's a pretty common one. It doesn't really bother me, but I also know that especially in our military community, people with military training need to be able to see all around them all the time. And if there's a bunch of people, it makes it really hard to do that, which can be kind of uncomfortable. So so I know that's a pretty big stressor. For me, a lot of stress, I think, is self-induced. It's kind of like, I know I need to get this thing done and I need to at least make some progress on it. But expecting perfection the first time out of the box, I think, puts a lot of undue stress. No draft is ever perfect the first time. Nobody ever publishes their first draft. So so that's a stressor, is to make it good, good enough to show somebody when I'm writing. I also think that people have a fear of the unknown, like, and we were talking about this earlier in the week, Marty. We were talking about, like, let's say that you arrive at a party alone and it's a house that you don't know the owner, and you have to walk in there and you're really worried about that first impression that you're going to make. But you can use mindfulness right before you walk in the door. And so we talked about this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding exercise. So 5 things that you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Works great with kids, because a lot of times kids will get anxiety before they're in a new situation or they're around people that they don't know. And so having them do that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise can really kind of ground them and help them. And it's a mindfulness exercise without you having to say, hey, we're going to, meditate for a couple of minutes. We're going to, we're going to focus on this for a couple of minutes before we go in there. But, and then you just knock on the door and you go in, and whatever happens, happens. But, yeah, so
it's another. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go.
I was just going to say, it's another form of focusing on what's natural for you or us as humans. Focusing on our senses. Most of us, if we're fortunate enough to have, sense of smell, have a sense of touch in any different way, or hearing, accessing those sensibilities that we naturally, have, or any one of those, and just bringing it back to your body and what's natural, and focusing attention. Anyway, I'm just rambling now.
Yeah, and I think mindfulness. One of the things that can be a stumbling block for mindfulness is saying to yourself, "I can't focus for that long," or people being too critical of their own body. Your body is your body, and you need to get to know it, because if you even if you focus on what your hands feel as they touch your pants, especially if there's like a seam there or something, that's kind of an interesting thing. But there's no right or wrong about it. It's just there. And so that's what mindfulness kind of brings forward, is that there's no right or wrong. There's no value judgment on anything. It's just, this is what this feels like. Isn't that interesting? And that's all there is to it. And that it makes it just really, really simple. And I think that's the whole key, is the simplicity of it.
Absolutely. And you can do it anywhere: on the bus, in the car, at the grocery store. Especially at the grocery store, there's so many senses being, prompted at that moment. And it's bringing you to the present, right? What do you smell right then and there? What do you see right then and there? What are you hearing? So anyway, present.
Yeah, present, exactly. Okay, so
Anyway.
Yeah, we should probably write again, I think. Don't you think? We got a couple of new
Let's
prompts
do it.
for you.
I think so.
Yeah, so we got a couple new prompts for you. This time, it's going to involve a little bit of art, and we're going to try to incorporate some drawing into some of the prompts for mindfulness, because self-expression doesn't always have to be with writing. Although we are the veterans writing community, we like to integrate other forms of creative expression too. So this time, think about drawing a picture of your face when you're the most stressed or anxious, your stress face, and then describe it. Give it lots of good detail, And then go back and circle any emotion words and then give those their own space. Write about them individually. Or if you want a little bit of a lighter prompt, you can tell a story about some money that you found. I found a dime today on my walk, still in my pocket. So, so tell a story about some money that you found. That's kind of a fun story too. So I'll set the timer for 10 minutes. As soon as I find my timer. There we go. And just keep your pen moving. Ready, go. 1 minute left. All right, time is up. So finish up those thoughts. Add your periods and your exclamation points and your question marks at your ends of your sentences, and give yourself a bookmark for where you want to pick that back up again if it's a thought that's not finished. So one of the things that Linda Berry, she's somebody that we're going to be exploring some of her work in a future broadcast, but she's a cartoonist, and she also works really closely. She teaches art classes where there's a lot of neurology, and she talks about how the brain works a lot. And one of the things that she says that really helps you deal with stress is drawing your face when you're stressed or anxious, and then looking at it, and then later on coming back, months and months later, and looking at that face and seeing if it's still, you still recognize it as something that connects to you. So one of the reasons that I thought that was a good prompt to write out a description of the picture and then circle the emotion words, and then treat each one of those as a prompt, because a lot of times you can connect your emotion to how you're feeling physically right here in the moment as you're writing. And since next week's broadcast is going to be about mindfulness and emotion, I thought it would be a good way to sort of make connections between one broadcast and the next. So the other thing I want to connect is I want to connect to our February series that we did just a few months ago. It was a whole series on self-care. And we were joking about how self-care is much more than just bubble baths. And mindfulness is a really good way to practice some self-care, because whenever you're feeling stressed and anxious, you can just stop and focus on the present moment, and you should be able to kind of diffuse a lot of that stress. So Marty, do you want to talk a little bit more about long-term effects of holding stress, or some of the unhealthy ways of that stress kind of builds up?
Absolutely. And I have a pooling feeling to just really quick share my prompt real quick. Do you mind?
Oh, for sure. Go ahead.
I just want to say real quick to always check all of your junk mail, because I found a check that was a refund from a company that was like well over $200 that I almost shredded and threw away. So that was some money I found. Okay, now let me move forward. Something Dylan and I have discussed is cortisol, and we're not doctors and we're not psychiatrists or anything of the sort, but cortisol is this, like, I don't know, how would you describe cortisol? Like a chemical that is, causes, what is it, like flight or flight or something like this? What is cortisol?
Yeah, I think it's a hormone.
It's a hormone.
Yeah, and so when you feel stress, it builds up in you, and you have to find a way to kind of burn it off, or
Right.
else it builds up, and then it manifests itself in other ways, like high blood pressure and
Right.
other physical, long-term physical problems.
Absolutely. And personally, I've been told that that high cortisol levels are a cause for, weight gain or constant weight that you can't lose, because it's like making your body hold on tighter to that part of your body, and it makes it harder to lose weight. And that is another effect, and that also other medical issues and problems, and also aches and pains. I mean, this is just a secondhand story, but somebody, a friend of mine, went to go get a massage at one point, and he had always had this one knot on the side of his shoulder or something like that. And the masseuse went to go and massage it out. And my friend said that while the person was massaging that knot out, he ended up like weeping, and he became emotional, but not because it was hurt. It wasn't like he was hurting. And the masseuse said, I've seen this in a lot of my patients. And it could be a part of your body where stress or trauma has been stored, and it was stored in this knot. And it sounds hokey. It sounds like a lot of hooey. But really, our bodies are so beautiful, mysterious, and magical. And it protects us in so many different ways. And sometimes it protects us in ways that we don't even realize. So it really manifests itself in different ways. Weight gain, high blood pressure, tightened muscles, or just knots that you never knew existed. And I feel like there was something else you were asking me, but I can't recall it right now.
Oh, and things like headaches or migraines or other things like that too can also be connected too. So yeah, we're not doctors, we're not therapists, but some of the things we're suggesting can be therapeutic though. So if you're interested in some of the things that we're talking about and you want to learn some more, those John Kabat-Zinn videos are really good. He also wrote a book called Full Catastrophe Living, which I started reading this week. He wrote it in 1999, but he revised it in 2013, and it's really good so far. But there's a real connection, I think, between how you process things mentally and emotionally and how those things manifest themselves physically. One of the other books that we recommend reading that's in our Veterans Writing Community Library is a book called The Body Keeps the Score. And it's by a guy named Bessel van der Kolk. And that's a really long link. But it's the link to the Amazon store. I don't know if that's something people can get a hold of, but it's called The Body Keeps the Score. And it really talks in depth about how physical pain is a manifestation sometimes of mental and emotional trauma, and how trauma manifests itself physically and how that's all connected together. So if you're one of those really pragmatic people who likes science, this is certainly a book that's worth reading. If you're wondering why your body keeps doing what it's doing, this is certainly worth a read. So I also wanted to connect some to mindfulness in activities too. Things like martial arts, there's a real strong connection to mindfulness and meditation and martial arts. And it connects to dance, it connects to music, it connects to just about any kind of creative expression, art. So what the great thing is that when you're doing those things, you're actually practicing mindfulness and not even realizing that you're doing it, because you really have to focus. Like, for example, I'm about to start a rehearsal in about 15 minutes. And when I play my music, I have to count. I have to think about tone. I have to think about embouchure. I have to think about breathing. I have to think about the music notes and interpreting that. I have to think about loudness and softness and blending with the group. I have to watch the director. I mean, there's all these components that get put together, and all those neurons are firing like crazy. And my brain is so busy doing all those things, making one note or a series of notes, that I don't have the bandwidth to handle anything else. And so that's why music is kind of mindful, because you're really focused on just that one thing. And then you can't really be distracted by other things. And so that's kind of helpful. So certainly therapeutic.
Right. Yeah, especially as a player, right, as a musician. And like you mentioned, martial arts, or, I would even say, yeah, these activities, like especially dance. And to me, what it is it's your brain in coordination with your body, and you're telling your body what to do, and you're being thoughtful about what it's doing. And it's in sync. You're not just sitting there thinking about it. You're actually telling your body what to do, and you have control, and yeah, it's about being focused. Anyway, I had the same experience with music as well, and it's really a beautiful thing. And if you're a musician, it's a beautiful experience. But the same as if you're a dancer, or even if you're just a jump roper, the way your mind and body connect, is really so simple yet so powerful. Anyway.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, you can mute me anytime, okay, folks?
So I think the main takeaway from all of this is to just being mindful is just being aware of what's around you at the time, and not assigning any kind of value to it, just being aware that it's there. And so if you're feeling an emotion, like if something, I hate to use the word trigger, but if something triggers an emotional response in you, you can look at that mindfully too. You can say, well, yep, I'm anxious, I'm feeling anxiety. Yep, I'm feeling it. And then you can sort of set it off to the side and say, okay, that's anxiety. That's what that feels like. And then kind of focus on something else. And so sometimes that helps to kind of mitigate how bad the anxiety gets. I think that really can help to keep it from, kind of taking over and giving you maybe even something stronger, like a panic response. So.
And it's all about exercising by practice. And the practice could be 30 seconds long. It could be a minute long, and you can build up from there. And I think this is something we're going to talk about at some point, or you've all done it for homework at some point, was to go for a walk and to begin noticing what's around you. And that's one simple way to bring it into your life as you're walking to work, or as you're walking in your car, or when you're in the backyard. Take at least 30 seconds to say to yourself, what do I hear? What do I see? What do I smell? And all that stuff. Practice.
And one of the things that I noticed that ties all of these activities together, art, karate, dance, mindfulness, is that they all take practice. No one is ever good at these things when they first start out. So if you feel like you're not great at mindfulness because you're just joining the series, or you're just getting into it and you're beating yourself up over it, then think about how great you would be as a musician with the same amount of time you put into it. How great at karate or dance or art would you be? If you don't think you'd be great at these things with the amount of time you've invested in it, don't beat yourself up for not being great at mindfulness. It takes practice, just like everything else.
Yep, and that ties right to writing too. We that comes up lots of times too with writing. People say, I'm not a writer, I can't write, I don't write very well. Well, it takes practice like anything else too. And so, connecting that mindfulness to your writing, why are you writing about, well, we're going to talk about the tenets here in a couple of minutes, but, getting right into the moment of why you're writing about whatever it is you're writing about, that's something that can bring that mindfulness right into the task of writing. And just like Andrew was saying, the more you do it, the better, then the easier it gets, and the better you get at it. Bless you.
Agreed.
So, Andrew, would you go over the tenets, please?
Sure. So our first tenet is, who are you writing to? Who is your audience? And so it's important to know this, because if you don't know who you're writing to, you're not going to have a lot of effect. Like if you're writing a grant, you got to know who's going to actually be reading the grant, right? Otherwise, why are you writing this in the first place? That kind of ties into the second point, which is, will your audience understand everything you say? If you don't know who your audience is, you don't know if they're going to understand everything you say. And it's okay if they don't understand everything you say, as long as that's what your intent is. Sometimes things are just too painful to talk about. Sometimes they're not relevant to the story you're trying to tell, and including that in the story is actually going to be more of a distraction than it's going to be a benefit. So know if your audience understands everything you say, but forgot where I was going with that. Moving on to the third one. So the third one is the story all there, or are there parts left out? And again, this kind of ties in with the previous tenet, right? So if the story isn't all there, the audience may not understand it. And it's okay if they don't understand it, as long as that's what you want. So is your story all there? Are there parts that you left out? If there are parts you left out, are they important to the story, or are they irrelevant? And kind of playing off that a little bit, maybe you need to add a little extra to the story. So not just is there parts that you left out, but is there anything that you added in that may not belong in the story? And the last point is, why are you writing specifically about this? So just like the first point, knowing who you're writing to, knowing why you are writing is really important, because if you don't know why you're writing about a specific topic, what kind of effect at the end are you going to make? And then ultimately, why are you writing at all? If you're writing a story because it's a comedy and you want it to entertain people, that's a purpose, but you actually have to know what the purpose is. If you're writing a comedy, but it ends up turning out more like a grant, you failed in your writing. So know why you're writing a thing, because a lot of times why you are writing something will help to dictate what kind of form, what kind of style it's going to have at the end. And so that's a quick sum up of the 4 tenets.
Yeah, I've been focusing a lot on the third tenet lately. Are there parts you left out? And sometimes when you do an original draft, you just kind of, I call it the vomit draft. You just kind of get it out and you feel a lot better. But then you can always go back to those first drafts. And then if you left something out, you can always add it in. And sometimes a little time and distance can help you fill in those gaps, especially if you don't remember certain parts when you originally wrote it, but you remember them later. Or if you write it about the same, if it's a series of events and you write about them, instead of listing the events like you maybe did the first time, you could go back and write about how you felt, or what you were thinking at the time, or what you think other people were thinking at the time. And sometimes that can help fill in the gaps too. So that's been my kind of focus over the last few weeks. We do have a few things that we'd like to call your attention to as we finish up here. If you write something that you would like to work with, and you would like to contact the veterans writing community to work with some of your writing, Andrew put the contact information down there at the bottom of the screen. And so you can email us at veteranswritingcommunity@gmail.com, or you can access our website at veteranswritingcommunity.com and contact us from there. You can also tweet at #WritingVeterans, or if you feel like you want to support us monetarily, you can always donate to our Cash App at $WritingVeterans. So we have lots of ways for you to support us if you would like to. If you have something that you've written, even if it's something you wrote a long time ago and you would like to work with us as a small group or as a critique group, or maybe work toward publication, we do have a publication called the After Action Review, which you can see on our website. And we would be happy. Well, I think Andrew's got a paper copy. Ta-da! That's volume 1. So if you're interested in publishing with us, drop us a line and shoot us an excerpt of your writing, and we'll talk about it and see where you want to go. As always, we focus on writing that belongs to veterans, and we don't charge any money for publication. So please know that if you do want to work with some of your writing with us, there is no charge for that. If you liked this video and you liked its format, be sure to like and share and bookmark our Facebook page or our website if you are interested in looking at it again. If you found this thing helpful, interesting, or fun, tell your friends and make sure you hit that thumbs up button at the bottom of the screen. We also have some afterward activities that we'd like to encourage you to try. Like last week, we suggested taking a walk, but this time try to do it with a little more mindfulness focused on your body. And so think about how your body responds to walking and start from the crown of your head. Just how does that feel? And then as you get to your eyes, what are you seeing around you? And then as you get to your ears, what are you hearing? And then work down to your shoulders, your arms, your hips, your legs, your feet. And as you work your way down, think about how your body works in concert, how those different body parts work in concert to propel you forward. And then if you want to, you can always come back. When you get back home, you can write about how that made you feel. Hopefully you'll feel more relaxed and you'll feel energized by the time you're done. We also encourage at least 20 more minutes of writing to follow tonight. You had a 5-minute sprint and then you had 2 10-minute sprints, which should give you 25 minutes of good, strong starts on your writing. But we also know that that's really not enough time to develop your ideas sometimes. So especially if you wrote about more than one thing during that time period. So think about writing for 20 more minutes just as a follow-up to develop what you started here and finish those thoughts and really flesh them out and develop them. So like I said, email us or visit our website for any kind of a follow-up. We'd be happy to work with you one-on-one or in a small group. And if you're interested in publication, you can see some of the pieces that have already been published there. There's no real restriction on the genre of writing that we do, except we don't publish novels. We usually do short works like poetry, some creative nonfiction, some fiction. And if you look on our website, we have 2 volumes of 2.5 kind of volumes of the After Action Review, and you can see them there and kind of get an idea of some of the things that we've published already. We also have some comments from the veterans who've been published on our website too. So, so that's about all we've got for you. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. And we hope to see you next week when we talk about mindfulness and emotion.
I'm looking forward to it.
See you later, everyone.
All right.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.